What's up, benchwarmers? We're back on Zoom and getting ready for this second episode of the week. We had some midweek fixtures. There were some goings on with new appointments and caretakers coming back to handle their clubs with baby gloves. We'll see how that goes for some of the London boys. But before we get into all of that, my name is Diego, and I'm joined on this episode with John, aka Gat, Marco, our crack producer, and Josue, that is with his headset. I think it's a good place to start off with a reminder that we always want to hear from you guys. So, on any of our posts, in the descriptions, on the comments, liking, subscribing our YouTube channel, our Instagram. We appreciate all of that interaction. And we always encourage you guys to let us know what you think. If we're the most malinformed bench that there is, if you want to be a bench warmer with us, if you think that what we're saying just really speaks to your heart, let us know. Leave a comment, and we appreciate all that love that you guys give us. But so I can move on to some of the fixtures. I do want to ask you guys how the week has been treating you so far as footy. Um, I know that there were some results in Spain that had you smiling this week, Josue. So that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for Marco, it looked like an easy win for your Arsenal boys. So that you were probably just chilling, watching the rest of the games unfold
Pretty much.
for the rest of the week. And Gat, I don't know, it was definitely a nice whipping with Newcastle. So
Newcastle revenge.
It was a very Jekyll and Hyde kind of past the week with in terms of the night and day performances.
yes, it was definitely Jekyll and Hyde. But I'll get into let's look at the Monday. Let's look at the Monday result. Everton won, Spurs won. It looked like Spurs had it won with a penalty in the late minutes that Kane dispatched in the 68th. There was a red card for Decore. I do want to talk about that. I'm not sure if you guys did see it, so I want to ask you guys if you saw the incident with Decore, Harry Kane, him getting pushed in the face and then hitting the deck. Essentially, I guess a player would drop no matter what, but I want to know what you guys think. Was the red deserved? Was it embellished? Is there no reason to talk about it? Like, what do you think? I need someone to bite on this first.
I think it was definitely a deserved red. I mean, you should never put your hands on a player like that, especially when you get into someone's face and do that. There was definitely a lot of embellishment because you can even see in the video Kane falls the opposite way of how he got touched or hit, however you want to describe it. So, for example, if the hand comes this way, he turned and fell the other way. So, I mean, it was clearly there was some embellishment there. He's always going to do that. I think a lot of people are always going to make a meal out of that. But at the end of the day, it was a deserved red card. It's not something you should be doing. Decore just kind of lost his head. I mean, it was state of the game. I mean, it ended up working out for them oddly enough, but he needs to keep it in check next time.
How about the Lucas Moura red card? What can you tell us about that, Dyer?
Uh, that was a deserved red card. Not gonna lie. I mean, he went in hard, studs in, right onto the ankle, like actually a little higher than the ankle, almost close to the shin. Um, I think it was a right call by the referee. It's just it's just a shitty feeling only because he just got subbed on to put the pressure on Everton's defense to prevent them from pushing up. Excuse me. But I guess he went in a little too hard, of course, and he just couldn't do it because it was literally a couple of minutes right after he got subbed on. And then what happens? It's just the whole I don't know the train effect because Michael Keane was the one that caused the penalty. Okay, he was the one that got fouled by Lucas Moura to give Lucas Moura a red card. And then minutes later, he was the one dribbling the ball in our half of the field to shoot it from way out, far post, keep Yori standing, and scores the goal. Like Michael Keane was the name out of every fucking play that was there, and it was just like, are you kidding me? It was definitely scripted from the universe and from the FIFA gods, from football gods. But other than that, it was just a bonehead move by Lucas Moura. He shouldn't have gotten in that hard. He was nowhere near getting the ball. So that's what I don't know. I can't say like would that have prevented from Everton getting a draw. Who's to say? We don't know. So that's all I gotta say.
All right, so Marco, what did you think about Michael Keane? Did you see the goal actually before I ask you?
His goal?
Yes.
No, but I'm actually looking at the replay right now. So first of all, Romero's a bitch. He was not hit. He was barely touched and he went straight to the ground. And he was holding his ankle when his pinky toe was the one was touched. So, but okay, whatever.
There was contact.
Barely.
Contact is contact.
Bro, I can burp on you and that's a contact, basically. And if this is the reason why they're giving him a fucking penalty. Lucas, yes, well-deserved fucking red card, without a doubt. The other gentleman, what's his name?
Doucouré.
Yes, well-deserved red card, but Kane should have walked away with the yellow.
Bro, why?
He made a meal out of that shit, bro.
Wow.
For antagonizing.
Oh my god. Typical. You got a Spurs hater because he's an Arsenal fan. You got a Spurs hater over here because he just hates me. That's what it is.
No. I am being as
true.
honest as possible.
Ditto.
And if you want,
why did I even join? I'm still sick. I'm leaving.
I'm first. Oh, Keane's goal is a banger. And if you want, even here you go. So you can see that I try to be as neutral as possible in every single game and every single scenario. Eric and I were talking about, we always watched the Arsenal game together. And if I'm mistaken, there was a penalty in that game against Gabriel Jesus. That was a soft-ass penalty. Like, honestly, if it was anywhere else, if it was outside the box, they would have never called it. Because it was inside the box, he basically sold it. It's perfectly fine, whatever. Some of those go away, some of those go. There was contact, but in my opinion, there wasn't enough for like a real penalty, but whatever. I mean, I'll take it. They gave it to us. Why would I be pissed? But if I was a ref, I would have never called it. And yeah, that's basically it for this. But yes, the King goal is a fucking banger, man. Holy shit.
Michael Keane absolutely twatting it out from like over 30 yards. I think it was incredible that he use this. Oh no, I think it was maybe his left. Was it his left foot?
It was the right foot.
No,
it was his right. Huh?
No, the one that was stepped on.
Oh,
I think it was his left.
No, it was his right. It was his right.
Oh, it was his right. Okay.
So
because if it was his left, he would have been out on a stretcher.
Oh yes, because it was the instep, and then he bent the. Okay, yeah. Listen, I saw that shot, and I'm like, wow, it's the irony of him using the same exact foot that almost got trampled to score that banger. Pegs back Spurs to a 1-1 draw. Obviously not what Spurs needed at this point, particularly considering the fact that the top four race is really tight now. And just looking at the table before we move on to some of the fixtures that happened the day after, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and I would even argue probably 6th and 7th are within touching distance. I mean, I could throw Liverpool in there too, to be honest, because they're only about they're 10 points back from 4th place right now. But the number of matches played is also something to keep in mind. They do have an extra game in hand. Spurs have already played 29. A lot of the other teams around them have either 27, 28 matches. They have fixtures to make up for it. But moving on to Tuesday's fixtures, Leeds and Nottingham, 2-1 win for Leeds. Leicester and Aston Villa. Fantasy-wise, a terrible look for Leicester City after losing Rodgers. 2-1 to them. Watkins with, if I remember correctly, it was a pretty good goal. I think so, yeah, right? I think the Watkins goal was pretty decent in that game.
I'm trying to think.
I mean,
back
it
to what it was.
It just trickled past Iverson, but either way, I don't want to dwell too much on that. Bournemouth losing 2-0 at home to Brighton. And then I do want to go into Chelsea-Liverpool 0-0 because I don't know what this match intended to be. I'm over here thinking that it was going to be an incredible scoreline. And they played out to a 0-0 draw. I think the one thing that's worth talking about, aside from the memes, Kai Havertz, absolutely awful on the pitch. I'm sorry, Chelsea. Um, it just they didn't look effective at all. I think maybe even Ben Chilwell was looking pretty dangerous for them. Liverpool deciding to go without Salah, without Nunez up front, going with the top three of without them both up front. I mean, because they started Nunez, Firmino, and Jota. They ended up subbing on Gakpo and Salah. 0-0. Did you guys watch the entirety of this game, or like, can I get some thoughts?
I felt like I was watching their last game because the last game that they played was 0-0 at Anfield.
Yes,
and
that
the
was
one,
4
yeah,
0-0s.
and the one
Yeah,
before that was 2-2. The one before that was 1-1. So draw
it's
seems to
just
be
like
written all over these teams.
I mean, exactly. I mean, honestly, this game was so boring. I'd rather watch the Puppy Super Bowl because that shit was just so. I don't know. It was just so slow. It was so. I don't know, man. It was just whack. Like
Mudryk,
I literally took away. Oh my god! Don't even get me started with Mudryk, bro. Go, continue.
Please, no. Go ahead. I think
He's the
Eric would get a kick out
he's
of it.
he's the reason that Potter got sacked.
Yo,
He's the
how
reason
how,
that Potter got sacked. How do you not put that ball away when
how
you're
much how much was he bought for?
80?
80 something,
80
right?
an $80 million shot towards the chest of the goalkeeper that goes like 5 miles per hour? Nah, bro. Fuck out of here.
it really
That
it
that
really
was
looked like
ridiculous.
the way that he shot that. It looked like it was maybe even muscle memory. Like he was used to that quality of shot going in. And I think sometimes that can also be something that a player from another league doesn't really translate well. Of course, maybe he's gotten accustomed to, from way far out, because he even side footed it like low. He didn't hit it hard. He didn't hit it like to either corner. It was essentially like almost a straight on shot to the goalie. And yes, the funny, at least the meme quality to that event was it being probably the reason why things happened the way they happened. But we have further news about Chelsea and in a little bit. United taking a 1-0 win at home to Brentford. United's record so far at home being pretty good. I think they've only lost twice. Um, and at home, of course, it was pretty difficult. Weghorst getting benched. Rashford played as the number 9. A torrential downpour during this match. At the end of it, it was a little bit nerve wracking because it did. Brentford is a pretty decent team, whether they're home or away, as long as Tony and Mbomo are on the pitch and their fullbacks aren't anything to ignore either. There is also the other result: Newcastle 5, West Ham 1, absolutely splattering them after having beaten United earlier in the earlier fixture on during the weekend. Callum Wilson, I think, got 2 in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Joelinton also scored
Sure
2.
did. Isak
And
also
Isak,
didn't. He came on and scored too.
he
Did
scored
you
one.
guys see the Isak goal with Fabianski? I think that was there was 2 very huge mistakes in this game. First was Aguerd kind of dallying on the ball, getting caught right in front of his 18-yard box, getting caught out, and then I think it was I do want to make sure that I say it. I think it was Jacob Murphy that rolled it over to Callum Wilson, who just basically slotted it into an empty net. And then for the second um, time around, as far as mistakes, Fabianski trying to basically clear it out, only getting as far as Isak, missing the clearance completely. Isak taking the ball from him and then just lobbing it into an empty net again. It doesn't look very good for West Ham. Newcastle, however, now are in third place, tied 53 points with Man United. West Ham, though, 15th, 27 points. There's 4 teams right now that are tied on 27 points, with Bournemouth in 18th place in relegation just because of goal difference. But that really rounds it up for the midweek fixtures in the league. I do want to touch on something that did happen outside of the Prem, and that was Copa del Rey, the second leg over at the Camp Nou. Real Madrid, Ramadan Kareem, Big Ben's with his Hattie at the camp. I got to ask you guys about this game because there was a lot there's a lot riding on the first leg, which Madrid had lost 1-0, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So 4-0, I mean, it just, that's Vinicius scoring, Benzema with the Hattie, a penalty in there too. His goals are actually pretty class. I need to know what you guys thought. Marco, Josue, what do you guys think about this result, Marco?
All right, well, let's start off with first hat trick in the Camp Nou by a Real Madrid player since 1963, 63 or 68, can't remember. That was the last time they did a hat trick in that stadium.
Wow.
I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot about the game. Until I got the notification that it was like, hey, Clásico. So of course I started watching it. And there was a complete domination in the Real Madrid side as far as what I saw. I didn't see the entire game, so you can't like say, oh well, there was. I didn't see everything, but based off of what I saw, Real Madrid were really dominating. Now, in their defense, they are missing. Is it Pedri or Gabi that's missing?
Pedro.
Okay, Pedri. He's missing. He's missing. He's out on an injury. He's one of their key players. That's what they were kept on mentioning and letting people know. Oh well, we're missing one of our key players. Blah 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 blah. But whatever. I think this was a good confidence booster and a reminder that Real Madrid never gives up. Basically, doesn't matter it doesn't matter who you are. Real Madrid, if they're willing, they will find a way. And I don't know how much you shit talk and how much you complain or you can discourage players like certain messages that I saw about why are you playing Budrij, Carvajal, and Kroos.
Oh God.
There's a reason why Ancelotti is where he's at. And there's a reason why that certain person is not a coach or does not follow football the right way. Because all he does is talk out of his ass.
Sometimes you just need to.
Yeah, sometimes there's some people that just talk out of their ass because they have nothing else to do, and they're what we call the keyboard warriors. Or not even a warrior, he's just a fucking troll. He's like, oh well, what can I say right now that will will spark up a conversation, not even a conversation, just a way to get
just pure anger from the rest of us.
Yeah, controversy, a pure way of getting hatred towards people for the next 20 minutes because I'm bored. No, jokes aside. I mean, he said it, it's really fine. Fucking fuck you, John, JG, but at the same time, like, there's a reason why we're Real Madrid. There's a reason why we have the coaching trophies. There's a reason why we're the best, in my opinion, team in the world. It's because we just never give up, and that's basically what we did this game. And kudos to Vinicius, kudos to Benzema for carrying the team. There is a little I don't know if you saw. There's a little controversy within the game itself. Not the game, but the amount of what they're reporting, shit talking of Vinicius within the game itself. The players, I think Araujo was one of them that came out and complained about how much shit Vinicius talks on the field, and how much it basically pisses them off. They said it was very. I don't want to say it was racist things, but he basically, I think what he was trying to say was he was just using foul language that he didn't appreciate at the time. And I mean, Vinicius is the player that gets the most hate out of the whole league. So if he gonna shit talk a little bit, man, let him be, man. And he's young too. Like he's gonna shit talk. Like if you can't handle it, then so be it. Like that's your fault.
Okay,
What are you gonna do? I wouldn't be surprised that they end up taking away the shit talk every time you say something to another player. You'll get like suspended or get a yellow card the same way that they fucking took away every movement that a goalkeeper could do on a penalty. Like if we're gonna get to that point, might as well just fucking have the players run around with a gag in their mouth. Like shit talk is part of the game. So if you can't handle it, just don't be on the field.
It's the competitive nature. These are players who are competitors, and of course they're going to chat to each other. They're going to want to prove a point, and definitely it looked like the point was proven with a 4-0 rout on this current Barcelona squad. They're now knocked out of the Copa del Rey. It looks like most likely they're going to get away with winning La Liga. They have a very, very comfortable cushion there.
Oh, 100%.
But it's one less trophy that they're in the running for. Real Madrid now positioning themselves clearly in the final for another cup win.
And you can always bank on a Uruguayan to not hold back and shit talk whenever he can. So
no, he didn't shit talk. He complained. That's different.
Complain, shit talk, whatever.
That's shit talking is if you're going version, to complain.
That's
our
like,
version. Oh, your version
is
complain.
Our complaining. Our version of complaining is by trying to shit talk in other ways.
Okay. Nice.
Moving on to some other matches, some other action that happened. And we're going to get to some of the stuff that happened in the Prem, just wanting to highlight some things that were happening in some international fixtures that were some international football. The women's finalissima took place today. We saw England taking the chip over Brazil. It was a comfortable 1-0 lead for the English side as Ella Toone scored early in the first half. And then in the 93rd minute, Brazil equalizes to force it into penalties. But in the end, succumbing to the penalty loss 4-2, and the England women's national team ends up taking the Finalissima trophy before the showcase for the Women's World Cup that's coming up next. We do want to get back into the Prem though, and kind of to segue into that, I want to ask you guys very clearly, if you were with an ex, let's just say, for example, you're with an ex, and then it turns out that this ex ends up giving you almost the same amount of losses than wins in the matches that she manages in your life. Would you end up going back with this ex? It's a yes or no question. So, Gat, you're over here smiling. What do you think? Would you end up going back with this ex that gave you a barely 500 record?
Hell no. You're supposed to upgrade, not go back to square one.
I think Chelsea needs to talk with Andrew Tate.
I mean, it's not. Let me not pretend, because I don't want to make it feel like we're only going to be, we're only going to be picking on Chelsea, but
we should.
He's far from okay. Frank Lampard is announced now as having taken over at Chelsea for the specific role of caretaker manager. I think they're being very clear about that he's only supposed to be serving as during the interim, during their search for a new permanent appointment. He's far from the first manager to come back to a team after they've already had a stint. We literally have Roy Hodgson that went back to Palace. Sometimes things are tried and true, but I also understand, at least the way I see it, is that some of these clubs need to go back to some of the managers that they didn't have, let's say, pronounced success with, because they have no other choice. And especially even financially, they have no other option. But here we have a Chelsea squad that is basically spoiled with riches, spoiled with options. They have a very deep squad as far as what they're worth. And now we look at Lampard putting out his statement saying very clearly, "This is my club," and that he would be more than happy to come back again after having led them for 18 months. So Chelsea are in 11th place in the Premier League right now. I kind of want to highlight Potter a little bit. I think it's a disservice, but other than kind of pointing out the fact that Potter only won 22 of his league fixtures. Out of the 22 league fixtures, he only won 7, which isn't that great. Lampard, what are your expectations for Lampard at Chelsea this second time around, Marco?
I have no expectation. My hope
None.
and my desire is that they're out of any European competition, so that it bites every purchase that they've done this past season in the ass, because they're not going to have the money to do it. I mean, of course, their owner is a multi-trillionaire, whatever you want to call it, but in the books, it's all red, and it's going to be even worse. So my expectation is very, very low. Will he get a couple wins? Yeah. But will he bring up the team at least to any European competition for next season, so that he can leave whoever comes in as the next coach in the summer with the right foot to step on and a proper way of building a team? No, I don't think he's gonna do anything.
Josue, what's it looking like for these last months left in the season? Does it matter, these 9 matches that are left?
No. I think honestly, I don't think it's the coach. It is the players. You gotta get rid of players that are on that squad, because I don't know, they're just not linking up very well. I was just thinking of a joke in my head where, like, you go back to your ex because that's the first rebound that you can think of, and before you find out another piece, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing that I can think of. But I mean, we've seen Chelsea losing Tuchel, Potter, 2 great coaches that I would say Chelsea has had. They just were very unlucky with Potter, but I don't think it's his fault. I honestly think it's the team. You're bringing in so many players. Like, how many players did they sign this past winter transfer season? Like 8? And before that, they signed 6 in the summer, I think. That's 14 players right there. That's a brand new squad. It's just like the I don't know, the communication, the the compatibility, or the connection. That's the word that I'm looking for between these players. It's not there. So I honestly don't think it's on the coach's uh, standpoint. I think it's where you got to get rid of players and find the players to keep, because this Chelsea, as much as I'm loving it, they're going to continue to go down. And I don't expect much from Lampard. Maybe he'll get, like, how many games are left in the season? 8 for them?
They have 9, I believe.
9? Okay. Out of those 9 games, 3 of them are going to be wins. 2 of them draws, the rest losses. Quote me on that.
I'm actually glad. That
and
was actually a nice segue to me, because I'm glad you brought up 3 wins, because realistically, on paper, those 3 wins might very well come away to Wolves on paper, away to Bournemouth, and home to Forest. Those are also their easiest fixtures left to date. They don't have a good run of fixtures to end the season. They still have to play Brighton. They still have to play Brentford, Arsenal,
City.
Newcastle, City. They don't have a good run. I think in terms of expectations, it's just they just have to avoid just falling even lower at this point.
So I have this thing that I'm thinking of right now, and it's kind of taking me back from 11 years ago when Chelsea were doing very poorly in the league. Okay, they fired their coach, and
Mourinho.
then was it Mourinho or
Mhm.
was it or okay,
No, it was Mourinho.
okay, and then their interim coach was Di Matteo. I think that's what his name was.
I think so.
What did he do? He went on to get Chelsea to win the Champions League that year against Bayern Munich. And Chelsea was
So
not
it wasn't that one.
okay. So it wasn't Mourinho. I think it was Andres Villas-Boas,
Yeah.
probably.
Because
So
Mourinho all they did with Mourinho was sack him, and then all he did was shit on Spurs, so that Spurs wouldn't win the league, and that's when Lister did.
okay, so that year Chelsea did poorly in the Premier League, brought in an interim coach. That coach led them to a Champions League win. To qualify, to make them still qualify for Champions League. My question is, can we see that with Lampard?
No.
Because Chelsea are still
no
in
fucking
Champions
way.
League, aren't they?
Yes,
Imagine,
they are.
imagine
they
if
play
that
against
shit
Lampard.
happens. Imagine if that shit happens.
Yeah.
I'll be like, because that would knock out either Newcastle United, Spurs, or Brighton from that fourth. No.
How many points is between Chelsea and the fourth place?
14.
14 points. They're not getting in there.
So realistically, realistically,
everything that Josue just said in the past like 2 minutes is just blank. Blank.
So
What do you mean blank?
Okay. It's too many points, bro. Too many points for
no.
Chelsea can win them, but
no. I'm talking about if they win Champions League, they qualify for Champions League.
Okay. In that sense,
they're going against Real Madrid. They're going against the ultimate opponent.
Listen, I'm with Madrid all my life because I'm a fan of them, and I want them to destroy the shit out of Chelsea. But I am not taking this thing that happened before out of question because it is possible. It is possible. They might be shit in the Premier League, but they could fucking show everything that they got in the Champions League.
In the world of football, literally anything can happen. Yes, it's true, but I think the road to that is way too steep, and I don't think Chelsea has it to do it. Because let's say, all right, hypothetically, Real Madrid does lose to Chelsea in this, and then Chelsea goes to semifinals. At some point between semifinals to the finals, they're still going to come across Man City.
City.
What is it? Is it Chelsea the one that's going to give Man City their first trophy?
I hope not.
But here's the thing, that it was still a steep hill for Chelsea in the Champions League when they did win it. They went against Barcelona, Bayern Munich in the final.
Barcelona hasn't done shit.
Barcelona with Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Puyol.
Oh, you're talking about years ago.
Okay, but okay, of course that's different.
They're talking
compared
about
to 11 years ago. But
yeah.
I'm just saying,
okay.
Football has the possibility for anything is there. It doesn't matter who you are.
You are right.
If that shit happens, oh my god.
I think Josue is trying to tell us in a nice way that he's abandoned Spurs and he's found his new team.
I am not Nico 2.0. Fuck out of here. No.
I think he's excited about it.
Why are you bringing Spurs in here? I'm not talking about Spurs at all.
No,
I'm not rooting for Chelsea.
It sounds like you are.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
will disagree.
I'm saying the possibility of the shit that can happen.
Listen, I want to bring up. I want to interject to bring up just some records here for the previous managers that have taken charge at Chelsea. And one of the things that I do want to focus on is the fact that Lampard in the Premier League, at least in the Premier League, his record is 57 matches. He has 28 wins, 11 draws, and 18 losses. By far, I would say for a club like Chelsea, obviously for Lampard, who was having his first shot at, let's say, managing a big club, his boyhood club, his own club, it was okay at best. But if we look at some of the records for him in total, and comparing that to Tuchel, comparing that to Potter, I think it just kind of shows how Chelsea have kind of gone about this in the worst way possible. So in all competitions, Lampard had 84 games in charge at Chelsea. He managed 44 wins, 15 draws, 25 losses. It looks like his side wasn't doing the best at the time that he was sacked, because ironically, Chelsea were in 10th place when he was let go. Now he's coming back when they're a spot lower in 11th. And I guess they're expecting him to kind of get them at least into fighting for some European spots. Tuchel, on the other hand, his record is probably the best out of the three. 99 games managed, 62 wins, 19 draws, 18 losses. This is all competitions, just to make sure it's a level field. And then we have Graham Potter, who had 31 matches, 12 wins, 8 draws, 11 losses.
31 matches.
So it looks like
Jeez.
it could be. And the thing is that like it's so difficult to make an assessment that is, let's say, apples to apples, that is level, that is equal, because the team sheet changed so much. There was also these reports, which I don't really agree with. I don't even know why they were coming out. It's almost kind of counterintuitive to mention it, but they were like, oh, there are so many players that they had to go change in the hallway because they didn't fit in the dressing room, and then trying to make that sound like it was Potter's fault about the fact that they had a bloated team sheet. I think in that sense, he shouldn't be probably, ran over the coals, the hot coals at least, for something like that. He wasn't the one that had his say on, okay, let's have over 20 odd players on this team. As far as what the expectations are for Lampard, I think what Gat said is actually very important. They have on paper, again, 3 easy fixtures. And we all know that in this league, at least I will give credit to Josue saying anything can happen. As far as wanting to see that multiverse show up where they actually beat Madrid in the Champions League, I don't think so. I think that that's going to be a very difficult task. Maybe they have a way to organize themselves defensively. That's the best that I can see it, because honestly, and I think all of us would agree, even Chelsea fans would agree, the attack just is not existent. It's non-existent for Chelsea, and I don't think that they'll have the tools, they'll have the weapons to be able to crawl back up the table. But Lampard's back. Lampy is back.
Just
Maybe
just a
we'll have
couple
some
of
new memes.
a couple of fun facts, maybe useless, maybe not, but the last couple appearances for Conte have all been under a different manager. His last, I think,
Yes,
3 or 4 appearances have all been one a new manager every single time, which just
N'Golo
shows you
Kante, that's right.
state of the club. But also, a question for you guys is, how do you think this lineup is going to look? Because I think I saw recently he even already came out and said that Mason Mount is a huge player for the club. Is he going to be reintegrated now? Who is going to be dropped? What do you guys think he does with his lineup?
I think he's gonna go
Absolutely.
back to the same lineup that he had before.
I
Man,
think
man is on Mason Mount's dick every single time. Loves that kid.
he does. He does. He has a very soft spot for Mason Mount. And then we saw which very oddly with Potter, Mason Mount was very, I think almost instantly just removed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that he was eased out of the team. He was just like dropped, and that was it. We didn't see him at all. And I'm not sure if obviously there were some injuries in there, or there were some difficulties for him getting back on the pitch, but Mason Mount has been basically a ghost for Chelsea lately. There's also, and that's something that we touch upon on the fantasy segment, just so we can wrap up this episode. There's the conundrum between goalkeepers. It looked like Mendy was pretty much first choice under Lampard. Kepa has taken over so far. How is that going to look? And is that going to sow even more discord into your back line, who are arguably, it was thought that Kepa was chosen because Potter likes his distribution better than Mendy does. Some would argue that maybe Mendy has a better shot stopping quality, or at least shot saving quality. Who Lampard goes with, that's what I'm saying. It just looks like, especially as a caretaker, to go with Lampard, someone who already has his own method of doing things and is probably going to implement them right away. Is that even a benefit to Chelsea to have been like, hey, can you come and do this work for us? I also wanted to ask, what would be the case maybe if other squads, other teams would do something similar and kind of in the position that they're in, rehire someone that clearly it didn't really go that well.
Spurs.
Because although his record is okay, I mean, who's to say? I would probably be saying this. I wouldn't be saying this if Spurs went back for Pochettino. it basically sums it all up. I wouldn't be such doom and gloom if Spurs announced Mauricio Pochettino this weekend as their new permanent manager, or even an interim if they want to give him like a year or 18 months just to see how things go. I wouldn't be, because at least under Pochettino they were on a high. Of course, things went south. Typically, that's what has to happen for a manager to get sacked, obviously. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Like this season, man. Honestly, it's a fun season. It has been 12. I think departures so far for managerial positions. We're looking at maybe even some more, because it's rumored that Steve Cooper at Forest has his job on the line as well. So it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to be a manager out there.
And then
But we're getting.
It's also quite funny. Just one last thing before we continue. The last time that Lampard was with Chelsea, he got sacked right before the Wolves game, and now he's coming back for the Wolves game, so he's picking up right where he left off.
And he could. I think it could just be a very easy, 3-0 win for Chelsea. And maybe it's the catalyst that they need. Who knows? Who knows if maybe this second time around, this second stint for Lampard might end up just working out. But as far as working things out, we have all the notes and tips ready for our Fantasy 15 segment. We will wrap up this episode with the predictions right after that. So, Gat, I know we have some stuff ready to go for our listeners.
Can I start this one off, please?
So yes, you can go ahead and start this off.
I want to start this fantasy recap by saying, Diego, you forgot to remind me that I was supposed to do my lineup. I think I told you the last day, what was it, Thursday, Friday, like, hey, Diego, please remind me to do it before. Time you said yes, I'll remind you, which you didn't. But it's all right.
Yeah, in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you didn't remind me.
Minutes.
Not even in 10 minutes. Not even in 10 minutes. You didn't remind me.
Yeah. You know what's the funny thing? I did remember, but you didn't ask me to remind you. So
that's crazy. Anyway, so on Saturday, I woke up at 5:40 something to go to the bathroom, and on my way back, I saw the time. I'm like, shit, it's almost 6. Let me do the change right now before I forget. Well, before the time ends. Well, my ass decided to do it in bed, laying down with my phone on my face like this. And my goal was I was going to do the swaps, bench boost, and triple captain. That was my goal. I did the swaps, but I did it falling asleep. I was like, 1, 2 with eyes closed. I did the swaps. I finally hit enter because it was 5:58 when I hit enter. And then when I went to look for move the players, the Rashford into the lineup so I could captain him and then go for the triple captain, the bench boost, it was 6 o'clock and I couldn't do it anymore. So my captain stayed on Saka. And my bench has 36 points. Which I can't use because my bench has 36 points because I couldn't use bench boost.
It's okay. It's okay, Marco.
De Bruyne was on my bench, which he was on the field, but for some reason he ended up in the bench. And Rashford was on the bench, and I can't remember who else was on the bench. So yeah, I lost the chance to make 100+ points.
It's okay, Marco, because you were not alone in blundering your deadline moves. Some other people also forgot because they fell asleep.
I was legit, bro. I was like after I was pissed. Not like I was pissed. I was upset.
No,
but I was legit. I was falling asleep. I was like this doing the swaps.
Diego, who is that one character that was watching the deadline streams and forgot and fell asleep?
The same thing happened to me, man. I had literally 2 players on my bench. I was thinking about maybe making an extra transfer. It was essentially a very early deadline stream because obviously the time difference, that means that typically they start like 4:30, 5 a.m. And I knocked out too, man. I didn't play my bench boost. I think I would have gotten away with it if I had put, because I put the two players that are supposed to be on my bench in the team so I can look at it and be like, okay, who can I upgrade these two people with? And instead I completely knocked out right when I was trying to set it up. And then I woke up like this in like a freaking hot flash, and I was like, oh crap, picked up my phone, looked at the time, literally I saw the time change on my screen, 5:59, 6 a.m. And I was like, damn.
I was like, let me do it. Let me still do it at 6 a.m. What time is it? 6.
and
Fuck, it doesn't work. And then it's not like you can't. It's that they take the whole thing away.
Yes,
they take
lot,
everything
correct.
away, and it's like, oh, we're doing some updates or whatever. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
and
that
Marco,
was my story. Got up to you.
Marco, that was Solanke, your third bench player with an 11-pointer.
Oh,
following
thank you.
following KDB's 13 and Rashford's 12-pointer that you
Yeah,
left on
and
the
Rashford,
bench.
I was gonna triple captain that motherfucker. He had 24, so yeah.
I mean, either way, you would have only been able to use one of the two chips because you can't combine them. It would have been either the bench boost or the triple captain.
Oh, I was going for the bench boost first, so I would have gone.
Well,
yeah,
the bench boost would have probably worked out very good for you. So for anyone else who did bench boost, your scores were probably very high. Some of the averages actually ended up going past the 80-point mark, which is incredible for a lot of managers. Despite my blunder, which I do admit to, is just lack of preparedness, I did end up just passing over the 100-point threshold with 103. But I do also feel hard done by for myself on it, obviously, that I left 14 points with Mitoma and another 7 points with Estupinian on the bench for a grand total of 21. I kept Zinchenko. Honestly, I thought that maybe keeping Saka would have been a differential against Leeds, but it just wasn't meant to be in that game. Both him and Zinchenko would have been the swap outs, the substitutes out for my starting 11, and I would have been pretty well off. I think I would have essentially been like on 124, 123 points. But that's beyond the case. It's over. It's done with. Double game week 29 is now finished. The biggest double game week of the season. It looks like all of your typical template picks happen to return, and we're talking about Watkins, Trippier, all the Brighton boys. They return nicely for their owners, and even David Raya, who ended up picking up some nice points despite conceding 4 goals across both matches. He ended up with 11 saves, which gave him some saves points and a good return despite the results. I'll watch this update very quick for this Fantasy 15 segment, just for everyone who follows along. We'll go through who is currently on the watch list. We have one defender who honestly is on a lot of teams right now. He's not on mine at the moment, but I think it's worth having him there in case anyone else is considering. The one defender name that we have right now is Ben Chilwell. It may be too late to pick him up, honestly. You could probably benefit from this Wolves fixture, as we were alluding to just now, if you want to pick him up. But his next fixtures are pretty difficult, and we'll get into some of those details moving forward. As far as the midfielders, we have plenty of names for you to pick up from. Salah, McAllister, Maddison, Martinelli, Grealish, Gundogan, Mahrez, Bruno Fernandes, and Pereira. So Salah, obviously, they do have that match against Arsenal coming up. He ends up, despite his benching in this last match, I think he's probably the safest pick. And also keeping in mind that they do have a double in the future, it might be worth picking up some Liverpool assets now so you can have them ready to go for when those doubles hit. McAllister on pens, obviously a lot of managers have already jumped on the Brighton train. If you don't have him, though, he could be someone that is also a combination of an enabler and he has penalty duty. It looks like Mitoma doesn't really need some of the underlying stats, but McAllister is definitely someone to keep in mind. Maddison has one more match to come good. If you do have an extra transfer that you want to just punt on, I guess his next match against Bournemouth is probably his last saving grace. He does have City in the fixtures ahead, and it doesn't look very good for Leicester. Really, it looks like a case of the rest of his teammates letting him down. He really does set up and create a lot of chances, but they're just not being put away. Martinelli, a name that is also coming up. It looks like he's going to flourish with the return of Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus also makes the watch list, and we'll get to the forwards in a little bit. But Martinelli could be someone as far as a budget option. A lot of managers looked away from Arsenal last week for the double. And of course, they did win the previous fixture against Liverpool, but considering the fact that there are other midfield assets that have more fixtures to come, that's why they're having priority. But Martinelli is on the watch list just because he is cheaper, and he might end up giving you that cover for the midfielders on Arsenal in case you already sold them all. The three City boys are the ones that are coming up right now, and they're looking pretty good, especially considering the fact that they do also have that double moving forward in game week 34, and we have the likes of Grealish, Gundogan, and Mahrez. I think the particular order wouldn't really be too much of a hassle, especially because Foden is injured currently. Bruno Fernandes, we saw him play a little bit deeper during this match, which was very frustrating to watch as a fantasy manager. But hopefully, with the return of Casemiro and Eriksen between the game weeks 31, 32, he could probably pick up his forward attacking role, maybe be more of a 10 than an 8, and be involved with the creation of goal scoring chances. Andres Pereira comes back on the watch list because he's 4.3 now, much cheaper than what he was previously. Mitrovic getting his ban. It looks like maybe even Pereira could be the goal scoring outlets that Fulham is going to look to. He did end up being that for some of the matches that Mitrovic did miss through injury, so he could be an enabling pick if you're already moving away from having a stacked or healthy bench, especially if you've already played the bench boost chip. Some of the forwards on the list: Haaland. Obviously, we need to wait for some news. We'll get into that as well. Alexander Isak, he looked pretty good for Newcastle. He did score that goal, which was a bit of a gift from Fabianski. But the one risk with Isak is the fact that he didn't start that game and that Wilson did. It looks like maybe Eddie Howe is going to be switching between one and the other for the matches to come. However, he did look very good when he got on the pitch. The one that is already very interesting to me is Gabriel Jesus finally giving managers an option in the forward line. Of course, Ollie Watkins has been slowly ticking away. How long that's going to last, we're not sure. To have both Harry Kane and Haaland and a third forward slot has been a little bit difficult, and then that kind of eats up your budget. So your midfield or your defenders end up suffering a little bit. So to stretch that out, I think the return of Gabriel Jesus is going to be a godsend for a lot of managers, especially considering the fact that Arsenal will want to win the majority of their matches moving forward. But I'm going to hand it over to you guys so you can get us into the top transfers of the week. And then you can start with some of the notes going into this game week 30.
So some of the top transfers in for this upcoming game week, we see the likes of Watkins, Grealish, Ben White, Gabriel Jesus, and KDB rounding out the top 5. Some of the transfers out: Saliba, Almiron, Haaland, funny enough, Ivan Toney, and Luke Shaw round out our top 5 transfers out. Quickly getting into some of the rest of these notes, the aforementioned Haaland, even though he is on the top 5 list for transfers out for this upcoming game week, try not to be too hasty in making that transfer. We want to wait for additional news from Pep tomorrow at his presser. As long as there's nothing negative, he was pictured back in training. So I mean, at the end of the day, it is Haaland. Even if he gets 30 minutes, he'll be able to do some damage. They do play away to Saints, and then they have home to Leicester. So two pretty decent fixtures coming up. But with Champions League right around the corner, we'll see how those minutes get managed for Haaland. Right now, probably the template move going around is easily, if you have the money, again, this is very team dependent. If you have the funds in the bank, Toney to Haaland seems to be the go-to move, albeit Toney was able to escape free of a yellow, so he's still good to go for the next couple games, depending on what happens in the next one. But there's also a lot of should we do Kane? Should we do Bruno? Should we do Salah? How are we going to get Haaland back? The moral of the story is try to plan to get Haaland back at some point. There are even some cases where some managers are even going as far as game week 34 before they even bring him back, depending on how your team is set up. But you do want to make sure you plan to get him back eventually. Going into Chelsea, I know we had alluded to it not that long ago with Lampard being back and getting right back into the swing of Champions League. We don't really know what's going to happen. As Diego mentioned, Mendy seems to be favored under Lampard, so a lot of people are pretty nervous as Kepa owners. A lot of future planning for the upcoming doubles and blanks was to not transfer out Kepa, and now that might have had to, probably screwed a lot of people over, needless to say. So we'll have to see what happens. For their defense, a lot of people brought in Ben Chilwell for this double. If you brought him in, it's probably best to just hold him for now and see how he does. There's really no point right now to buy anybody new from Chelsea. I mean, just their next four. They have Brighton, then they blank, then they have Brentford and Arsenal. So it's, again, as we mentioned earlier, it's not a good run of fixtures to end the season. If you are a double Chelsea owner with the likes of Chilwell and Kepa, or Reece James and Chilwell, or whatever two you want, you're going to want to start thinking about who you're going to axe first, because it's definitely not a duo that you're going to want to hold to for pretty much the rest of the season. Following up on that defender conundrum, you can look into doubling up on Newcastle. Despite facing Brentford, their expected goals conceded away from home is actually much better than Brentford's. So the likes of, everyone still has Trippier most likely. So either Botman, Share, even Nick Pope, if you want to go down that route, if you have a Kepa problem that you need to get rid of. Some of the midfielders that you're going to want to take a look at, you're probably going to bench one of the Brighton boys, or even an Arsenal asset if you still have them. A lot of people probably still have Odegaard and Saka. It seems to be the case where a lot of them are probably just going to bench Odegaard just because the potential with Saka. And midfield slots this season are just amazing to have, and you want all of them. And unfortunately, we only have 5 slots that we have to play with. Moving on to some of the forwards really quickly. A lot of the people are going to stick with who they had for Double Game Week 29, which includes the likes of Watkins, Tony, and either Kane or Havertz. Again, as I mentioned, you're going to want to figure out a way to get Haaland back, whether that's Tony to Haaland, like I said, or if you don't have the funds, then you're going to have to unwillingly get rid of Kane, unfortunately, to make that transfer. That also depends on what you're doing in the future. Game week 32 seems to be the week that a lot of people are going to free hit if you still have your free hit. So that is also going to take your planning into consideration, what you're going to do moving forward. So we're at the point of the season where it's not just week to week. You have to worry about the fixture congestion, what's going to happen down the road. Brighton still have, I think, 2 more fixtures that they have to reschedule. So a lot of people are still holding on to Brighton, which may or may not cause an issue down the road, depending on how your chips fall. So some of the fixtures that you're going to want to target, if possible, based on the current template. Villa are home to Forest. Forest, unfortunately, have conceded 109 chances through that center channel, which is very favorable for the likes of Watkins, since a lot of people just brought him in for Double Game Week 29. He hauled with 17 points, which is amazing. So you're most likely going to hold him for that upcoming fixture. Brentford, even though they are home to Newcastle, both of these teams have conceded quite a bit through the middle, with Brentford having conceded 143 chances through the middle and to Newcastle's 81. So the likes of Tony, the likes of Isak, the likes of Callum Wilson, whoever ends up starting for Newcastle, they could see some nice chances right through the middle. And also, funny enough, Brentford and Newcastle are first and second for expected goals from set pieces. So that Newcastle double up, whichever two you end up going with, the likes of Denme, Rico Henry, Ethan Pinnock, maybe it could be, we could see a goal from one of them if there is a set piece, which, of course, there's always going to be. Next match you want to target, Saints are home to City. Now, I believe, I don't know how the exact stats, but I think Saints have been a little bit of a headache for City in the past. However, the Saints have been conceding 106 chances from Grealish's side of the field. So I know Grealish is on the watch list for a reason, even though he has been doing well the past 10 games or so. He started in a row. This could seem like a really good game if you want to take a bunt on Jack Grealish. However, it is Pep Roulette. play that at your own risk, depending on how lucky you are feeling. Couple more to go here. Spuds home to Brighton. Unfortunately,
Can you for
it's.
once say their name properly?
Oh, I am.
Oh my
So,
god.
unfortunately, it is Spuds. So just target every
Spurs.
fixture.
He means Spurs, guys. Spurs.
It's too easy. It's too easy. Target every fixture that has them in there, pretty much. 134 chances conceded through the middle for Spurs. So it all depends on if Ferguson is going to start, if Welbeck is going to start. It could bode well for them. McAllister's also been playing as the number 10 right in that middle. Of course, as Diego mentioned, he's also on pens, so he could be someone good to take a punt on if you don't already have him rather. Bournemouth home to Leicester. Madison owners just keep crossing your fingers. Like Diego said, this is probably his last saving grace for him to actually do something. You could even look at the likes of Barnes on either flank. Bournemouth have been conceding somewhere around 120 chances so far this season, so it's up in the air to see who is going to get the returns in this game. And then last but not least, in terms of fixtures to target, United are home to Dyche. Everton have been cut through pretty easily on the flanks as well, with again about 120 chances on each flank. So hopefully Rashford plays on his on that left side, which is the spot we prefer him to play on, which would mean Coleman will have a pretty tough time hopefully managing him. Although shout out to Coleman, he has been doing pretty good recently in those last couple games, holding down that side. But nevertheless, it is someone that you want to target. So now heading into captaincy, Diego, you're gonna please let our listeners know in no particular order who we should be
In
looking at.
no particular order is right, and we have to also remind you that there are disclaimers here, disclaimers there, disclaimers everywhere for all the tips that we're offering you. Everything is very much team dependent, but as far as captaincy for this game week 30, Rashford scores his first goal after February, after having essentially a month off and then a bad run of games in between. But he is the early kickoff, so as famously known in the fantasy streets, Gandhi always tells you to never back the early kickoff if you want to have a good weekend. The next obvious pick is going to be Haaland. If there's no negative news from Pep during his presser tomorrow, Friday, then he could most likely be a decent pick. Southampton have been a bit of a thorn for City, and we saw that in them getting the better of them during the League Cup and eliminating this City side. But I really feel like this could be a moment for Pep to continue putting pressure on that 8-point gap. And speaking of the 8-point gap, Saka is another option for the captaincy. 2 goals last time out against Liverpool, really taking that game by the scruff of the neck. It really looks like Arsenal are going to be able to close out this match against a Liverpool side that don't look very confident. During that Chelsea game, they didn't look very, I guess, didn't look very inspired, very much devoid of ideas on the attacking side. But defensively, though, is where a lot of the questions are asked for Liverpool. So Saka could end up being a nice pick for your captaincy. And Ollie Watkins has a differential playing against Nottingham Forest for the reasons mentioned before. I feel like this week is going to be very much decided on who your captain is going to be. A lot of the teams are going to be very similar because of the setups for double game week 29 in the matches prior. So it's almost like going up against several versions of the same team, and really the captaincy is going to be what's able to separate you from the pack. Looking at our draft on the bench here, just in case it mattered to anyone other than Gat, I took a loss to Josue in the league, so that match ended up being 64-57. I believe I left some pretty important points on the bench with Botman and Pinnock, who didn't do very well for me. But as far as the other results for this week that just passed, Gat ends up taking the better of Marco 83-60, and Nico beating Eric's non-existent team 69-47. The standings are still the same, essentially. Gat, myself, Nick, Marco, Eric, and Josue are where the league table lies. Everyone essentially stays where they were.
Last night, for the first time in I don't know how long, I made some transactions. I got rid of Doherty. I got rid of Cancelo.
Okay.
Players who are not even in the league anymore.
Okay, Marco, this is your friendly reminder, one of many probably, if things go down the way they did last week. Deadline is 6 a.m. again.
Oh, I just did I might did shit. Okay. I'm like, you know what? I might as well do it now. I took a hit, but I was like, fuck it.
Yes, the deadline is on Saturday, 6 a.m. And don't forget to lock in your teams. And we're going to wrap up this episode with predictions, just so we can get the ball rolling here. Guys, it looks like the 3 matches that we're going to end up predicting. We're going to start with arguably what is the highlighted match of the week. We'll just rip the Band-Aid right off. Liverpool at home to Arsenal FC. Some stats which Marco is not going to care about or worry about. Liverpool have won their last 6 home Premier League matches against Arsenal, scoring at least 3 times in each game, which is for a total of 22 goals. And Arsenal, however, are looking to complete their first league double over Liverpool since the 2009 and 2010 campaign, where they last won consecutive league games against the Reds back in 2012. The Gunners have kept a clean sheet in just 20% of their Premier League games against Liverpool, and they've also failed to score in more Premier League games against Liverpool than they have against any other opponent, which is essentially 20 matches. This is the 9th time that Arsenal have faced Liverpool in the Premier League while top of the league, and that record is actually a little bit better. 3 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. So, Liverpool, arguably away, have been a very different team. At home, they look to be a little bit stronger. What do we think for the predictions on this game, gentlemen? If you want to, I'll go first just to take the pressure off of Marco. I'm going to say it'll be a repeat of the last match. I think it's going to be a 3-2 away win to Arsenal.
I'm going to go with 3-1 away win to Arsenal. You writing it down?
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
Okay.
What say you, Josue?
I'm going to say a 2-1 win for Liverpool.
I am going to agree with Marco and say 3-1 to Arsenal.
Now, before Eric is be like, oh, well, Dyer hates Arsenal, typical Spurs fan, he hates me and all that kind of stuff. No. Arsenal are just bound to lose a game soon. And I think this will be it before the end of the season.
So you're saying this is the last game that they lose?
For now.
No, that's not what you said 2 seconds ago.
Continue.
Okay, second game in the predictor wheel for us. Wolverhampton Wanderers hosting Frank's London Blues. Wolves are winless in their last 4 Premier League games against Chelsea, with 3 draws and 1 loss since beating them 2-1 at the Molineux in December 2020. However, Chelsea haven't won either of their last 2 league visits to Molineux, 1 draw and 1 loss, since winning 5-2 in September 2019 under Frank Lampard. So that's worth keeping in mind. Chelsea have only lost 3 of their previous 19 meetings with Wolves in all competitions, and it'll be the 5th time that Wolves boss Julen Lopetegui has faced Chelsea in his managerial career, with each of the previous 4 coming in the Champions League. He has failed to win each of the last 3 without his side scoring a single goal, 1 draw, and 2 losses. So it looks very lopsided for Chelsea, and it looks like it could be a very nice feel-good win for Frank Lampard in his Cinderella story coming back to London. So what do you think? I'll let you go first this time around, Gap.
0-0.
0-0?
It's going to be another dud of a match.
0-0.
Diego, let's go to you next.
Okay.
What do you think, Diego?
You know what? I don't disagree. I don't think Wolves have the personnel to do any damage to Chelsea, but I also feel like that's the same I could say for Chelsea. I'm probably going to look silly, but I'm going to go 0-0.
Josue?
I don't know. My gut feeling is saying Chelsea. I don't want to say Chelsea, but I'm gonna go with Chelsea. A 1-0 win for Chelsea.
Alrighty, Marco.
On the same fucking boat. I Josue. I don't want to say Chelsea, but I have a feeling that it might just end up being it, man. But I do think there's gonna be some goals, so I'm gonna go with the 2-1.
2-1 Chelsea?
Yeah.
All right. And the last game for our predictor, we have Tottenham Hotspur at home hosting the high-flying Brighton and Hove Albion. Following a 1-0 win at the Amex Stadium earlier this season, Tottenham are looking for their second Premier League double over Brighton, doing so previously in 2018-2019. Having lost 5 consecutive away league games against Spurs, Brighton have won this exact fixture 1-0 last season. Brighton have only lost 2 of the last 3 Premier League away games against London sides, which is as many as they had in their previous 14 visits. None of Tottenham's last 24 home league games have been drawn. They have a record of 17 wins and 7 losses, with Spurs winning the last 4 in a row. None of the last 9 managers to take charge of a Premier League game for Tottenham have lost their first home match in charge. 7 wins and 2 draws since Clive Allen in October 2007. So it looks like history has been very favorable for Spurs when it comes to a new manager, at home. This is a tough one, honestly, especially considering the fact that Brighton have been very clinical. The likes of Mitoma, March, McAllister have all been combining very well. We also have what's supposed to be a prolific figure in Evan Ferguson when he does, mature a little more, flesh out, and learn a bit more of his craft. Except right now, I don't know. Is Tottenham wounded enough to take a loss at home to Brighton? That's the one question in my head. So, Marco, what do you think for the score on this one?
Who's at home?
Spurs.
Doesn't matter. Spurs is gonna Spurs it up. 1-1.
1-1.
I'm being nice to Spurs right now.
So you're saying they're gonna Spurs it up and Brighton are gonna get the equalizer right before the end of the game?
Pretty much.
I don't think that's gonna happen twice.
I don't think so either. I think it's gonna be an easy another day at the office 4-2 Brighton. We'll save Josue for last because he's
getting
ready.
You said 4-2 Brighton?
We'll save Josue for last because it looks like he's about to reach through his monitor and strangle me.
Wait.
So
you really said 4-2 Brighton?
We're playing Halo Arena tonight, right? A lot of friendly fire is gonna happen right now. Fucking bitch.
Another day at the office. 4-2 Brighton.
You're asking for it, yeah. You're really asking for it.
We'll come to you, Diego, next.
Josue, always remember who is the one that goes for you the most, right? Putting that out there.
No, I actually have a list. I do have a list. Like
I think in that list I should be close to the bottom of that list.
No, you're still third. I still have
fuck you, man.
revenge for you in GTA races. So
okay. I'll take that.
I wonder who's first, but that's a different conversation. So
I mean,
Diego?
Clearly the person who's talking right now.
Oh damn.
Diego's not even on that list.
Spurs average.
I hear you choke when you said that.
Damn.
Just say it. 5-2, 5-1, Brighton. Go for it.
No, I do need Brighton to do United a solid because Spurs are right there. So I'm going to go 2-1 Brighton. Harry Kane's gonna obviously score another penalty.
I question our friendship.
All right, Josue. How much is
2-1 Brighton?
You know what?
Spurs gonna win.
I'm gonna counter your 4-2 Gat and say 4-2 Spurs. 4-2 Spurs. You know what? No, actually, you know what? I'm gonna say 5-2. I'm gonna add that extra one. 5-2. And when they score 5, you're gonna shove that 5 up your ass.
Oh my god.
Oh, Saturday, 10 a.m. I already know what game I'm watching. That just solidified the game I'm watching.
Be in the party. Be in the Xbox chat party. Be in the Xbox chat party.
Chill. Darby.
Christ almighty.
All right.
Waffles, chicken and waffles.
That concludes this very hostile end to the episode. Gentlemen, I want to ask you if you have any parting thoughts before we close up shop for this one. Marco?
Parting thoughts. A blank. Every weekend we're closer to the ultimate goal.
Every weekend, one step closer. Josue, parting thoughts.
Hold on. I'm typing down the resignation letter for Gat. Give me 1 minute.
Okay. I have 2 parting thoughts. One, I can't wait. The season for the boys is just around the corner, so I'm excited for that to start shortly. And then parting thought number 2, which is bench related. For everyone out there who is watching and or listening, feel free to look in the description below. Make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms. Please come join the bench, as Diego mentioned earlier in the episode. We'd love to hear from you.
Josue, back to you. Your parting thought.
Parting thought. Come on, Spurs. Just please.
Spurs.
That's just it. 5. That's all I gotta say. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Spurs.
Just 5.
Get in the top. Get in the top 4. Qualify for Champions League. And please, just please, shut these guys up for once.
I love it. I don't have a particular parting thought in that I've been thinking of, but hopefully this is a nice little kickstart catalyst for Ten Hag and the boys. It would be great to see Casemiro back in the side. It'd be nice to see Eriksen back on the grass as well. But that's it for this record. We come back next week. We'll see how the predictions go. I'm excited to see how that ends up. But we'll be waiting for you guys in our recording early next week. We appreciate all the love that you guys give us. Don't forget to join us on the bench. We're the Bench Warmers, the bench with a voice, where the bench is always warm. Peace, everybody.
Good night.